Of the 20 most important categories in all of Halo speedrunning, only 5 have ever seen a time under an hour. The first game to fall was ODST, with its relatively short campaign cut even shorter by a massive skip on the final level. ODST Easy would break the final hour barrier for the first time on January 19, 2021 thanks to Hark. With the first of these massive accomplishments finally out of the way, it was only a matter of time before other categories would follow suit. But that begged the question, which one would be the next to do it? A runner by the name of Seclusive wanted that glory for himself, and his category of choice was Halo Reach Easy. If anyone was going to do it, surely it was going to be Seclusive, as he was far and away the best player at the time. The main obstacle in his way was the third to last level, New Alexandria. I won't go into the details here, but I have a deep dive into the level's nature and history on this channel already if you're interested in knowing more. But the TLDR is that the level has a massive amount of luck on it, and in order to achieve the first ever sub 1, Seclusive would have to get lucky. With his personal best being driven all the way down to 1 hour and 17 seconds, it really was only a matter of getting good luck on this pesky roulette table of a level. That being said, only a few months after Hark achieved the first ever sub 1 in ODST, Seclusive would achieve his own in Halo Reach. But not only did he get a sub 1, he ended up getting an insanely lucky NA, and damn near skipped a 59-minute time altogether, achieving a 59-minute and 2-second time. This stood as a nearly unbeatable run, one of the most legendary speedruns in all of Halo history. It was so impressive, in fact, that it stood uncontested as the world record for the game for nearly 5 years. The reason I bring this up is that the thought of someone beating Seclusive's run was so out of the realm of possibility that it would take a complete revolution in strategies before anyone would even try. And for the 5 years that Seclusive's run stood dominant, the route and strats used in Halo Reach speedruns basically hadn't changed at all. That is, until super recently when a runner by the name of Waifu decided that he wanted to do the unthinkable and finally beat Seclusive's run. And in order to do it, he needed to do some things that no one else was willing to do. The level of difficulty in strategies executed was going to have to increase drastically. The goal would be to add so many harder strategies that you would offset the luck from New Alexandria and barely eke out a new world record, even if you didn't get perfectly lucky. This is all to say that the run we're going to be breaking down in this video uses all of the most cutting-edge strategies that Halo Reach speedrunning has to offer. And while very similar in runtime, the actual strategies implemented in this run are very different than the ones implemented in Seclusive's run. This is why I thought now would be the best time to make a video of this nature. It essentially marks a new era in Halo Reach speedrunning. Every strategy showcased in this video was one that was used in the current full game world record. If you would like to watch that, the link is down below. This run that we'll be breaking down is a compilation or segmented run of all of Waifu's best segments. So that means the best time he got for every individual level, but stitched back to back to make it look like a single full game run. We will be playing on the easy difficulty and on a downpatch version of Halo the Master Chief Collection on Steam. With the preface out of the way, we can finally get to the actual game. Released on September 14th, 2010, Halo Reach is a prequel game to Halo Combat Evolved, with the events therein leading directly up to the events of Halo CE. In addition to this jump in timeline, Reach oversaw the jump of Bungie from Halo, marking Halo Reach as the last Halo game to be made by its original creators. While Halo speedrunning has been a thing for as long as Halo has, its speedrun leaderboard website actually predating speedrun.com, the release of these games on PC with the Master Chief Collection completely reinvigorated the speedrunning scene. The MCC ports for these games vary wildly, from almost one-to-one accurate to near-complete remakes depending on the game. Halo Reach falls on the one-to-one side, with very little differences between the original and the MCC port, making the MCC port the preferred platform to run the game on, due to the higher frame rates available, ability to use mouse and keyboard, and overall ease of access. As we boot into the first mission, which is entirely a cutscene, we are introduced to our main character, Noble 6, a self-insert character for the player, as he gets thrust into Noble Team, a group of elite combat veterans with power armor and genetic engineering called Spartans. As a Spartan himself, Noble 6 is no stranger to combat, and in fact has a well-documented history, which Carter, the leader of this ragtag group, insists that he keeps in line.
That lone wolf stuff stays behind. Clear? Got it, sir.
The group is stationed on a planet called Reach, the last stand of humanity before Earth. Humans have been in conflict for a very long time with a group of alien species united as the Covenant. And to be frank, they're kicking our ass. Stationed to defend the planet, Noble Team gets their first mission with Noble 6 on board, as they are tasked with investigating the blackout of a communications array nearby. A fire team has already been sent there before them and have not come back, and it's assumed that local insurrectionist humans have shut the array down in protest. Loading into the first real level, our speedrun begins proper. Insert Halo Reaching. Just like all good speedruns, the game starts with a 46-second unskippable autoscroller. During this, Carter gives a rundown on the mission, as a Falcon drops you off on the bluff, which apparently is not something you just do when your hand is shit in cards. It's a steep, high bank cliff or slope with a broad, rounded face, usually formed by erosion of sediment, sand, clay, and gravel, along a river, beach, or coastal area. Thank you, Halo, for the new word of the day. Despite Carter's pleas, we are going to immediately be doing some lone wolf shit, and that's going to be pretty characteristic for the run as a whole. While Noble Team is investigating the distress beacon and going around the far side, we head straight to these rocks. By jumping up this slope and punching to cancel sprint, we can then crouch to land on top of an invisible wall that we can then slide across to get to the other side. This cuts a big corner and saves about 25 seconds in movement. From here, we can platform from rock to rock, like it's a Forge World parkour map, while George wonders where are the troopers.
Noble leader, I'm seeing heat sigs in the structure ahead.
Noble 6 knows something the others don't though, so he cuts right to the chase, jumping across a gap landing on top of yet another invisible barrier. Normally, you would arrive here after coming into contact with some civilians, who tell you something killed their neighbors. That something heavily implies it's not human. Then when you go to check out the neighbor's house, you get flanked and surprise attacked by, you guessed it, the Covenant. Scared shitless, Noble 6 decides he's going to get out of there ASAP, assassinating the skirmisher and taking his needler rifle for his troubles. This particular part of the run is by far the most technical in the entire game, so I'm going to have to pause and break it down a bit. Let's talk formatting for a second. When the speedrun itself is paused, the footage will go black and white. During this time, I'll often rewind to replay sections so you can see them again, sometimes in slow motion. In addition to this, I'll occasionally show things that don't normally happen in the speedrun, but seeing them will add additional context that'll make it easier to understand what's going on. When I do so, they'll always be presented the same way, like this. By entering the combat encounter from this side and jumping off this rock, we hit a few different triggers. The triggers need to be hit in a precise order or the incoming trick will fail. Not only that, but we need to kill exactly 2 enemies before backtracking into the house that we just ran over top of. Doing so, and with precise movement, hits the triggers in such a way that it catches up our teammates to this new encounter. On top of that, it spawns in some reinforcements, most important of which is the Falcon that shoots enemies from above. This also spawns in the additional enemies that were supposed to flank us. With them spawned in, we run back outside and track down this skirmisher who always has a plasma pistol. The plasma pistol is a pretty decent weapon, but we grab it here for its secondary use. By charging it, you can create an overcharge, and when vehicles are hit by this overcharge, they stall out. This stall out stops the driver from being able to control the vehicle, and in this instance, it causes the Falcon to fall out of the sky. Yes, you heard me right, the friendly Falcon that is here to help us clear out the enemies is shot down out of the sky by Noble 6. All within the first couple of minutes of the game. In order for our trick to work properly, when the Falcon lands, it needs to flip upside down. This particular friendly Falcon is piloted by an invisible Marine, but this Marine is programmed to never leave the Falcon. Despite this, the universal rule for all AI is that if the vehicle that they're driving flips upside down for long enough, then they get ejected from it. The pilot doesn't have this rule changed, so by having the Falcon crash into the river and flip upside down, he will, if you are lucky, eject from the Falcon. You can see his assault rifle floating in the air and even shooting at enemies after he ejects. From here, we can simply pilot the Falcon ourselves, but there is one major complication that we still have to solve. You see, the goal of this level is to reach the comms array, but you normally achieve this by fighting off this wave of enemies and then clearing one more area where you discover the troopers. Once they are defended from a few waves of enemies, the Falcon picks you up and takes you to the comms array. If we could just get to the comms array early, that would trigger the progression to continue, skipping the long middle section. However, there is a very large invisible soft barrier that acts as a ceiling in this arena, meaning that we can't just fly up enough to go where we need to go. That's where the enemy dropship comes into play. By flying towards it, we hit a trigger that causes it to flee. When it does, it follows a path that roughly goes through the soft barrier and towards our destination. If we then land on top of it as it tries to fly away, we can get stuck on it. It tries to fly around us and even occasionally will shake us off, but if all works out, we'll actually get pushed through the soft barrier and out of bounds. From here, we can fly straight to the trigger that spawns in the comms array. The comms array itself is an auto-scroller of sorts. After killing the first few enemies, the door is stuck, closed, and Kat, the technology expert of the group, attempts to hack it open. This takes a set amount of time, so after the first enemies are dead, it's just a big waiting section. Killing the enemies fast, though, has its complications. We want to stay out of bounds, so we kill them using the Falcon, but in order for the timer to start running, we have to actually hit another trigger inside this arena. This trigger will only recognize us when there is one or less enemies alive. In order to hit this trigger, we have to get out of the Falcon and then get back in. The trigger only checks for players every so often, so it's important that we spend a decent amount of time outside of the Falcon before getting back inside of it. If we get back in too quickly, the game won't register the enemies as dead, and the timer will never start. Runners in this section also would take advantage of the fact that the game uses the in-game timer for timing the speedrun, and the in-game timer pauses when you open the settings menu. In this section, it's common for players to lower their FOV so that they can see more clearly at a longer distance, essentially using it as a zoom, and then to restore it back to the highest possible setting so that they can see better around their Falcon. Once we get the timer started, all there really is to do is wait, but we can actually speed up this waiting by despawning Kat. Unloading the area by flying over the mountain and hitting another trigger despawns Kat, skipping her dialogue. This saves an additional 5 seconds, but is completely free. From there, we simply get into a comfortable spot, kick back, and wait for the next spirit dropship to spawn in, using it as a visual cue for flying back into the trigger. Then we land at the comms array and just wait for the door to open. This series of tricks is generally referred to as the WC out of bounds, and saves nearly 5 whole minutes over full pathing the level. The trick is very finicky though, and a huge hurdle for anyone looking to learn the run. It's a rule in the community that anyone seeking to learn this run learns WC last. Now that we've firmly established that this is in fact Noble 6 from the books, we do some lone wolf shit and give this Marine a few good luck punches. But those aren't the only punches we're going to be doing here. Because of this massive skip we did, the loading order is all fucked up, so the door won't spawn in like it's supposed to. Instead, it'll be broken until after the objective updates, and then you get a checkpoint. If you don't know, a checkpoint is a stored state of the game that you're given at certain times. This can be used to respawn you when you die or revert to using the pause menu. But it also sometimes is used to trigger certain events in the game. This particular checkpoint always happens right before the objective updates, meaning you would have to wait for another one for the door to load in. Fortunately, you could delay checkpoints from happening by making the game think that you're in combat, as you can't get checkpoints mid-combat. So by punching the door 5 times, you could delay the checkpoint enough that it ends up spawning in the door by the time it actually arrives. Here we hit a cutscene trigger that teleports all of the rest of Noble Team to us, essentially re-establishing canon. The group is attacked by a handful of elites, and George and Noble 6 are sent to finish them off. Cue the epic music. Our guns are reset, so we pick up a DMR off the wall and punch out this jackal to steal his PP. Then we turn around and pepper the elite to remove his shield before promptly blowing his brains out. Following that, we jump over this group of grunts, tossing a grenade down to kill them all at once. The level end trigger is up ahead, but in order for it to work, every enemy inside the next room must be dead. And if you're unlucky, these grunts will follow you into the room, making them also required to be killed to end the level. This is the same reason that we kill the elite as well. One more jump and a grenade throw later, and it's a 1v1 with the final elite, whom we backsmack to kill in one hit and promptly press the end level button. This section can be particularly brutal because there's an invisible barrier that you can get stuck behind near the button. If you miss some enemies that chase you into the room, it can be very hard, if not impossible, to kill them from behind the barrier. Essentially, this can softlock you. Assuming everything went well, that's Winter Contingency in 4 minutes and 25 seconds. The main strategy differences in this level were the addition of deloading Kat and the way we flip the Falcon. The strategy used in this run is called River Flip, because, well, you flip the Falcon on the river. This saves 5 seconds over the previous strategy, Roof Flip, which I'm sure you can guess how that goes. River Flip is far more volatile than Roof Flip, because the way the Falcon hits the ground dictates how it flips, and it often won't flip at all. When this happens, the run is simply dead, leading to far more resets with River Flip as opposed to the more consistent and safer roof flip. Double Team successfully recovers the comms array, but it's damaged beyond all reasonable repair, and it would take at least 2 weeks to fix. It's the only way to have contact with larger human forces, so Reach is going to be mostly on its own when it comes to the current Covenant problem. That being said, Double Team is ordered to go protect Oni Sword Base, a research and development facility housing top secret information that they cannot let fall into Covenant hands. Double Team's immediate goal is to secure Oni Sword Base and its immediate surroundings, so essentially, Noble go kill. Thankfully, that's what 6 specializes in most, so we simply run down the middle and use a grenade to kill these 4 grunts. Killing these 4 grunts specifically triggers the other frontline Covenant to retreat towards the back. While running through them, we search for sticky grenades and a plasma pistol. The primary goal is to get the target locator, but killing enemies on the way will help for later. Once we get to the target locator, we aim it back towards the top of the hill. The weapon calls for a targeted airstrike, and if we're lucky, it'll clear out the rest of the enemies. The door ahead opens up when every enemy is killed, and if you have the target locator picked up. While it's opening, we ready the plasma pistol to overcharge yet another friendly vehicle. This one is for a noble cause though. This transport hog is scripted to run into the wraiths and explode, but by overcharging it you can stop it before it gets there. Then you can nicely ask the driver to get out and take it for yourself. While he is complying, we make like an American cop and kill him anyways. This actually has a purpose though, as if he continues towards the wraiths far enough, he hits the trigger and this causes the warthog to explode, even if he's not in it anymore, which will instantly kill us. With our new wheels, we drive around the hill and spot a Covenant ghost. Ghosts are faster than warthogs, so we get out and hijack our way into it. The next goal is to press a button on top of this building. We park here and then throw a frag grenade near our ghost and use it to get a boost onto the roof. The elite up here has a special gun called the concussion rifle. It will from here on out be referred to as a conch. We overcharge him and then punch him to take it and then press the button on our way back to the ghost. If the grenade was placed correctly, it should flip the ghost upside down so that no one steals it from us while we're gone. From here, we drive it to the next waypoint. When boost isn't an option, it's faster to drive in a diagonal with flying vehicles. Because of that and the far superior handling, keyboard and mouse ends up saving far more time on driving than any other part of the gameplay. After pressing this button through the wall, we then head to the next stop where we show off why we get the conch. Its shots create explosions on impact, and this explosion can be used to gain height. With some well-placed shots, we scale this building and press the next button. Now we head back to Oni Sword Base proper.
Noble, be advised. Covenant Corvette moving into position. Cat, 6, get here quick. We'll meet you inside.
When we pass the trigger near the door, a 1-minute timer starts, and as long as we press this button before the timer ends, the door will open at the same time every time. While waiting, we get out of the ghost and break its wings to make it smaller and easier to flip. This will help for a trick coming up. With Cat teleporting to keep up and the door opening, we drive the ghost into the barricade and use the conch to flip it over the wall. There truly is no more iconic pastime in a Halo game than putting vehicles where they're not supposed to go. With the ghost on the other side of the wall, we can perform a trick called Hunter Skip. Normally, you have to fight your way through the courtyard once again and enter the Oni garage, where you'll be met by 2 hunters. Once the hunters die, the elevator door will open and you can progress from there. But the trigger to spawn in the hunters and the trigger to spawn in the elevator are really close to each other, and if you drive fast enough, you can actually spawn in the elevator faster than the hunters will spawn in. If done right, this skips the hunter requirement for the elevator door, as the game checks if the hunters are alive and comes back with false, spawning in the door. This trick is very difficult though, as you need a nearly perfect line to hit the second trigger fast enough to spawn in the elevator. If you're too slow, then the hunters will spawn in, and not only that, for some reason, they'll become invincible. This soft locks you, making it impossible to progress. There is one other nuisance that makes this trick even harder, and that is checkpoint splatter immunity. In Halo Reach, whenever a checkpoint is created, all enemies become immune to being splattered by a vehicle for 3 seconds. And it's really common to get a checkpoint right as you make it over the barricade. This means that if enemies walk in the way of your driving, then they can block the path, pushing your ghost the wrong way and stalling your progress. This can happen for a long enough period of time to cause the soft lock, because we're dealing with a really small margin of error here. To avoid this, we try to get the checkpoint as early as possible by leaving combat and not meleeing or jumping. Once we make it to the elevator, we just need to get to the top floor of the facility, as there's a fleet of banshees that need to be taken out. The fastest way to get there requires full health, so we snag this health pack here on the right. Back to full health, we could survive a few additional conch shots, so we use it to launch to the top of the room, floor by floor. After killing the first two jackals, we set our sights on the banshees. This is where we introduce new tech, the lock-on transfer. When aiming the rocket at a vehicle, it'll lock on after a second or so. This activates tracking on the rockets. This rocket tracking is pretty ass, but it's better than freeballing your rocket shots. You can transfer the lock-on from one vehicle to the next without having to wait for the lock-on to build up from scratch if you hold your aim on the first vehicle for a small amount of time after the shot, and then flick to the next one right after. Doing so allows us to fire rockets basically at twice the speed, while still using lock-on for every shot. This section is mega random, as the banshees have pseudo-random pathing, and the rocket lock-on isn't very good. While doing our best to shoot these banshees down with our wet noodle of a rocket launcher, we walk around to pick up more ammo off the ground. The Phantom in this fight comes in and drops off 2 elites, but because it's immune to death until it flies all the way back to the sky, we just rocket the elites as they land. After that, we use our last target detonator shot to kill the Phantom, and if we're lucky, all of the banshees will die around the same time as the Phantom, ending the level in 4 minutes and 17 seconds. Oni is a notoriously luck-based level, with the enemy AI doing basically whatever it wants. The run that we just scrubbed through was actually second place for the level on PC at the time of getting it. It uses one new strategy that was previously deemed only viable for individual level runs, and that is grabbing the concussion rifle from this elite. This level is by far the biggest reset point in the entire game, as the end fight being so luck-based gives huge swings in completion time. From the most random level to the most consistent level, with the Covenant fought back from Oni, Noble 6 and June are sent on a stealth mission to investigate the Covenant forces. This cutscene is one of the few at the start of a mission where the cutscene actually starts late. There are a few frames of actionable movement right at the start of the cutscene, and because the skip cutscene button is also the jump button, if you try to skip the cutscene too fast, you end up jumping when the cutscene is skipped, losing about 1 second. Avoiding that, we head into Nightfall, and this level is as simple as it gets. We simply run to the end. The primary thing in this level is your 2 forms of movement tech for this run: sprint cycles and slide jumps. The sprint mechanic, as seen in the bottom left, is a limited time speed boost that regenerates every few seconds. Timing where and when to use the sprint correctly can save a lot of time, mostly because they help you optimize your slides. If you jump from a great height while sprinting, you can then time a jump off a downward slope to bounce and turn a lot of your vertical velocity into horizontal velocity. If done right, this can send you flying across the map. Nightfall is all about these slides and jumps, as all of the combat in the level is optional.
Negative, too small. You're not in the dark zone yet. Engage at your own discretion, but keep moving.
Running past our second encounter, we set up our first real trick for the level: Blaze It Boost. Running towards the Guta, the giant sloth-like creature, we can shoot it with the sniper rifle 3 times to get its attention. It will then run on us, ready to attack. By breaking its ankles like a horse in a glue factory, we can bait it into giving us a specific swing animation. We can then jump into this attack and yeet across the room, saving 10 seconds. After one more really good slide, we run into a group of rebels fighting the Covenant. Our instructions are to defend the rebels and get intel from them. But if all of the rebels die, then the objective is failed, and you can just progress to the next one. By running right past them, we guarantee they all die to the Covenant and therefore skip the objective entirely.
They may have intel we need.
Keep those civilians alive.
Give us a hand! Bastards just keep coming.
Recon Bravo to Noble 2. We lost the civilians. Hold up. Copy dropship. Take cover. Okay, clear. Let's move.
Arriving at the last objective for the level, we are intended to kill all of the enemies and then plant a remote detonation bomb on the tower that will be then set off at the beginning of the next mission. But instead, Noble 6 spots a forklift and his certification test begins. After the bomb is placed, June opens this gate, and from there you just run to the end. But there is a small gap between the two doors, and if you line the forklift up with just that tiny gap and get out, you can clip right through the door, skipping the entire fight. This is artistically named forklift skip, and doing it first try means Noble 6 is forklift certified. From here, we just run to the end of the level, completing it in 3 minutes flat. Nightfall has been run to death, so most optimizations were already in the full game run. The only new addition here is Blaze It Boost. Having successfully scouted the Covenant setup, 6 and June regroup with Noble and launch a massive scale attack on the Covenant's forces the next day. Kat does what she does best and crashes a car, and we start the next mission. With there being 2 major anti-aircraft guns stopping air support from helping, our new goal is to take them down and to make our way to the spire. Before we can go take on those 2 AA guns though, we're going to need a replacement for our car. It wouldn't be safe for it to be dropped off right now, so we're going to need to take out these 2 turrets and then hit a trigger. Once that's been achieved, it takes a random amount of time for the Halo car to be dropped off. In this time, we can hunt down and kill an elite who has a concussion rifle. That'll come in handy for later.
Cat, be advised. Oni has ID'd 2 hostile anti-aircraft guns southwest of your location.
Driving to the first AA gun, we slow down over the hill as not to be flipped by the Neither rifles. The Warthog in this game is made of paper mache, so even a light breeze will cause it to flip harder than a 13-year-old gymnastics Olympian. The AA gun itself can be taken out by a single grenade launcher shell to the core, but the shield in the front needs to be broken first. If we're lucky, the Marine will shoot the Rocket Hog enough to break the shield, but if not, we just lob a grenade and then follow suit with the grenade launcher while making our way towards this ghost. Killing this AA gun spawns in a Pelican that'll drop off a bridge leading to the next area. We don't need the bridge because we can park the ghost onto a precise spot and throw a frag grenade under the ghost, and that, combined with a concussion rifle shot, will launch it up to the top. From there, we can conk jump up to the ghost. We do actually have to trigger this Pelican though, even though we don't use the bridge, because if we don't, a kill barrier won't despawn and it'll kill us if we try to leave early. From here, we just have to drive to the next AA gun, but in the way is a titanium refinery, and going the intended way is slow as hell. So we use this ghost like a Skyrim horse to climb the mountain, and then we yeet towards this metal pallet and land on top of it, so that we can concussion rifle jump up to the next part of the level. A ballerina spin later, and we arrive at the Revenant, where we can then drive it into our next big trick. This section houses what is easily the biggest change to the route since Seclusive's run, and also the hardest trick in the entire run. Before we jump into what happens next, let's establish what is supposed to happen, because it's gonna look a little bit different. Driving the Revenant towards the second AA gun, we drop off of a broken bridge. We shoot a single grenade launcher shot from this spot towards the AA gun. This will lead to its eventual explosion after a short timer. When this timer is up and the AA gun explodes, a Phantom will arrive to drop off Covenant reinforcements, and a Pelican will show up to drop off human reinforcements. After killing all but 2 enemies, you declare victory, and the Falcon spawns in with George and some other Marines in it. It swoops down and picks up the player, and in a 1 minute and 15-second autoscroller, takes you to the spire, where then the Falcon gets hit by an EMP of the spire and crash lands inside. Instead of doing that, we are instead going to be doing ASS, or Auto Scroller Skip. It starts by doing a very specific movement pattern in the Revenant. This movement will trick the first of the 2 wraiths in the arena to drive off of the cliff and kill itself. I guess this driving line is so slow that it's the wraith's 13th reason why. We then, once again, set up on this very specific spot and at 120 FOV, shoot the grenade launcher to blow up the AA gun in 1 shot. This is where things are going to get a little bit different though. Getting back in the Revenant, we splatter as many grunts and jackals as we can while driving towards the other wraith. At this point, there are 2 elites alive in this encounter, and the goal is to make it so that they are the only things that are alive at the end of the combat encounter. One of the 2 is driving this wraith, so to get him out, we get into the turret to force his ejection. Seizing a great opportunity, we jump in the wraith ourselves and focus on the grunts and jackals that are right next to one of the 2 elites that we don't want to risk killing. Our next big problem is the Pelican that drops off the Marines. Its gun turret can kill one of our elites, so we take it out to prevent that. For good measure, and to make sure the Marines are mad at us, we also mortar them as they drop out of the Pelican.
Marty, he's killing the Marines.
This usually leaves us with just a handful of enemies. Once we know where every enemy is, we turn our attention to the Falcon that's helping clear them out. If we blow it up with a Wraith Mortar, this extends the amount of time that the Marines are mad at us by about another 15 seconds. It's of vital importance that when we hit the requirement for the level to progress, that the Marines are mad at us. So we blow up the Falcon and try to cut the Covenant's numbers down to just the 2 elites before the 15-second timer runs out. If done successfully, this spawns in the Falcon that takes us to the next section, but without any Marines in it, and most importantly, without George. This is because the trick we're about to perform requires the Marines to not be in the Falcon to actually work. With the Falcon spawned in and the 2 elites alive, their AI defaults to this weird state where they like to hang out in between this rock and this tree. They will always default back to here unless chasing you down. Instead of getting in the Falcon though, we're going to shoot the tail twice with the Revenant, and this tilts the angle of it, allowing us to dive into its nook. From here, we can push the Falcon off of its normal course, getting it stuck on this rock and tree. One more shot to the tail to correct the angle, and a tap from the back puts it in the perfect position. The way the scripting in this section works is that the area is surrounded by invisible walls. These invisible walls, however, despawn when you get into the side seat of the turret. This makes sense because the Falcon is scripted to fly to the next area during the auto-scroller once you're in the side seat. And if there's invisible walls, well, it can't do that. Once you are in though, you can't eject from it. You're stuck in the scripted section until the cutscene transfers you to the next area outside the spire. Thankfully, it isn't the only way, it just seems that way. To get around this inconvenience of being stuck in the side seat, we drive the Revenant towards the elites. This triggers them to attempt to hijack us. By pulling them away from their desired spot, we can create a path for them to take to get back. If on this path we are in a vehicle since they are attempting to hijack us, they can very likely attempt to hijack us again. So by getting into the gun turret while they path backwards, we can trick them into hijacking us out of the turret just after the invisible walls despawn. Unfortunately, this isn't by itself enough to skip the autoscroller, because while the invisible walls are gone, we still have no way to get to where we want to go. That's where the second elite comes into play. We bait him into a hijack as well, but he hijacks the driver instead of the side seat. This is the reason that the Marines have to be mad at us when the Falcon spawns in, because we can't have Marines in the Falcon when the elite hijacks the driver. If there are Marines or a player in the side seat, then he'll instantly get out of the driver's seat as soon as he's done with the hijack. And because the Falcon is not programmed to be flown by a player, the pilot being ejected is not enough to be able to fly the Falcon. In order to fly it, we need to hijack the elite out of the Falcon, putting us in the driver's seat. Once in the driver's seat with the invisible walls despawned, we can just fly the Falcon through the autoscroller, but this time at our own pace. There is one trigger that needs to be hit near the end, and we can fly through it and through the EMP barrier of the spire. Turns out, it doesn't actually have an EMP. The driver just crashed because he thought it would be funny. We fly to the landing zone of the crash to hit one more trigger and then fly up to the top of the spire. Unfortunately, we can't get out of the Falcon, as it's not programmed to allow that, so we need to get hijacked out of it. There is very conveniently exactly one elite right at the end of the level, but bro is locked in on his game of League, so we need to get his attention first. We do so by killing 2 of the grunts with the Falcon while we land on the spire. This aggroes the elite and causes him to come hijack us. He then flies away, leaving the area and removing him from the kill requirement to end the level. Unfortunately, because we hit the trigger from the spire area while in the Falcon, we have no weapons at all. We can't even melee. The only thing we can do is throw one of our grenades. That is until we pick up a new weapon. Once we finish off these grunts, we close down bro's game for him and complete the level in 5 minutes and 11 seconds. Ass is easily the biggest innovation in this run, as it saves nearly 55 seconds over the full path route. The trick was actually known before Seclusive's 5902 was achieved, but the trick was deemed too hard to be done in a full game speedrun, relegated to only the few who wanted a really good individual level time on tip of the spear. Despite this, with how much time it saved, implementing this trick was pretty much the only way that anyone was going to be able to dethrone Seclusive. So some innovations were made and a grind was done to achieve the trick in full game. With these new improvements, the trick has a roughly 60% success rate, with the amount of time it ends up saving varying vastly from run to run. With the Spire deactivated, the Allied Space Forces could come in and demolish it with their support, for about a total of 10 seconds, before a shielded Covenant carrier decides to uncloak and one-shot the backup troops. With the situation escalating to be even worse than initially anticipated, Noble Team comes up with a plan. They're going to use Allied space fighters to board the Covenant cruiser, bring it to explode, and then send it into the supercarrier and destroy it from the inside. But in order to get access to the ship, they need to fight their way there. Insert Long Night of Solace. With the launching station overrun by Covenant, Noble Team has to fight their way in. Running across the beaches like it's D-Day, we grenade some grunts in the hopes that one of them drops a plasma pistol. As soon as we cross this drop pod, we're on a tight timer. The door that leads into the facility only opens when all of the enemies in the area are killed. But by taking a fast line and killing the elite that spawns from a drop pod fast enough, we can actually trigger the door to open early, as none of the other enemies that are in the dropship count towards the quota yet. In order to do this, we overcharge the elite shields with the plasma pistol through the drop pod door. It doesn't actually have a collision until the door animation plays. Once inside, there's a Marine on the left who has committed the heinous crime of having a gun that we want, so we blow him to smithereens with the PP. Our newly equipped sniper rifle has a random amount of ammo in it, but the ammo count doesn't really matter too much, as we'll always have enough to do what we need to with it. At the highest level though, those extra sniper bullets really help with clearing a combat encounter later in a much faster time. On the way to the longsword, we grab a sword of our own, the Energy Sword. This is the one time in the run that we're going to be using it, so be hyped about it. This game does actually have sword flying in it, but not the same type you might see in a Halo 2 speedrun. This game's sword flying is a Space Harrier fighting section. With controls similar to other flying vehicles, the longsword is always drifting forward. It has a machine gun that has some pretty decent tracking, the ability to roll to avoid enemy fire, boosters for increased speed, and lock-on rockets for dealing killing blows on larger targets. The UNSC Anchor 9 doesn't have its defenses ready, and is docking the UNSC Savannah when you arrive. The interim goal then becomes to defend the base from a Covenant attack while they get things ready for your boarding mission. This takes the form initially as a tutorial, where you prove to Colonel Sanders, Holland, that you know how to fly the ship. This tutorial is the one section in the game where playing on easy actually loses time to the higher difficulties, as they don't have this tutorial. Once completed, we wait for the Covenant ships to arrive by flying into a piece of debris. Doing so normally would cause the longsword to explode, but by holding down S or backwards, we could slow the ship enough to stall out on it instead of instantly dying. This is super useful because the ships that are about to be incoming always spawn in the same location and in the same order. This means by memorizing an attack pattern, we can kill them all before they even have a chance to fly around too much, making this combat encounter exceedingly fast. However, an added layer of difficulty in this execution is that the longsword is always flying forward, making it normally impossible to pinpoint your exact location in 3D space. This is why we fly into the debris, because by doing so we can keep our ships still while the ships come in, and then on a specific audio cue, fly forward to guarantee we're in the same spot every time, making the wave fight far more consistent. The first wave is made entirely out of Banshees. These die in one hit from the machine gun. The reticle when aiming at the enemies turns red, but a smaller red reticle occupies the space inside of it. This tells you roughly how you have to lead your shots in order for the bullets to actually hit. Unfortunately, this recommendation is complete trash, and so we rely on our own intuition for how to lead the shots and pray that the game's bullet magnetism saves the day. The Banshees are taken out in this specific order because when they are flying away from the player, they get exponentially harder to shoot. So focusing on the ones that take a flight path away from us first makes the fight more consistent. With the first wave down, we have 2 more to go. The next featuring a new vehicle, the Seraph. Seraphs are far more difficult to take down than the Banshees, being equipped with their own shields. In order to kill them, we first take out the shield with the machine gun and then lock on a volley of rockets to finish the job. This is somewhat inconsistent, as the rockets can randomly be dodged by the Seraphs, if it's feeling frisky. Despite this, the next wave is rather simple, and we head back towards our stalling debris to prepare for the final wave. This final wave is the hardest by far, with both Seraphs and Banshees joining the fight. Fortunately, we only have to kill the Banshees in order to progress, so we go back to our debris and set up, and wait for them to spawn in.
Anchor 9 to all UNSC ships. Station defenses are back online. Clear the lane. Light 'em on.
Once cleared, a set of reinforcement phantoms come in, and we have to kill those as well. The 6 phantoms spawn in random orders, meaning it's impossible to tell where to shoot first. I like to aim at this one's spawning location and spam missiles, getting a little extra early kill if I'm lucky. 2 rocket volleys each, and the Covenant starts to retreat. Despite this retreat, the game won't actually progress until every single Covenant ship either despawns or dies, so we speed up the process by killing the enemies further away from escaping.
Anchor 9er to UNSC ships. All targets neutralized. Bravo 029er, you are clear to dock.
Once cleared, Anchor 9 requests that we dock, and we do so, careful not to splatter the ship into the landing bay. Into the next section, we need to secure the carrier by disabling its thrusters and clearing the ships from the area. We can take out the first thruster with the rockets while we fly over there, and then duck under the ship's hull to see its launch bay with all of its Banshees. With some very well placed shots, we can kill all of the Banshees before they even get to leave the dock, and then head back to the thrusters to take out the rest. If this is done fast enough, we skip a dialogue that tells us to take out the ship's thrusters, and the returning wave of Seraphs instantly spawns in. This saves 10 seconds and puts the allied Savannah, which is on a scripted loop, in a much better spot to help us with cleaning up the Seraphs.
Heads up, Sabers. Multiple impulse drive signatures detected. More bogies incoming.
Echo 2 to Savannah Actual. Where are the reinforcements coming from? I thought the target was jammed.
Must be squadrons coming back from patrol, Echo 2.
Don't let any of them get away, Sabers. Kill them before they bug out and warn that supercarrier what we're up to.
A few Seraphs cleaned out later and the space fighting is over. We can leave it behind and continue into the FPS game that we all know and love. Landing on top of the carrier, we can enter in through this hole. This area is exposed to space, so there's no artificial gravity, and thus if we jump, we're gonna go soaring to the moon. So instead, we just fall into this hole and use our energy sword to kill these 4 elites. The speed at which this is completed actually doesn't really matter all that much, because the next room won't open up until Colonel Holland's dialogue is over anyways. But in the meantime, we could drop our sword for a plasma pistol and equip our 3 Marine allies with plasma rifles instead of their more traditional UNSC loadout. This is because for whatever reason, the Marines are far more likely to actually help kill the enemies in the next room with plasma weapons. And because it's just downtime, why not do something that makes things faster in the future? When the door opens, we arrive in the cargo bay, where a large Covenant force has occupied the space. They are allied by an engineer, which buffs their shields, making them far more tanky than before. We clear the hallway using our sniper to instantly kill the elite, and then focus on the engineer to remove those additional shields. The PP is normally known for its iconic noob combo, overcharging and then switching to a precision weapon to headshot, finishing the kill. But on easy, its peppering is actually super good for both killing grunts and removing the shields for elites. We prioritize the grunts first because killing the elites may cause them to become scared and hide. That's the last thing we want to do, is be chasing grunts around this giant hangar. Then we switch to our sniper to finish the last couple of elites in an epic sniping montage. After the last enemies are cleared, the vacuum and gravity are restored, meaning we no longer have Devil May Cry 5 physics. This is good, but the button that we have to press to progress the level is up on a stairway that's far away. So we need to make sure we get there first before we lose this lower gravity state. With the ship in our control for the most part, a Pelican flies in, bringing backup and the bomb. But we aren't in the clear yet, as we need to send the cruiser into the supercarrier. In order to make sure that happens, we need to clear the bridge. We sprint our way there, and for some reason, they have no clue that we've arrived, allowing us to use stealth to our advantage. This room has a lot of different random enemy arrangements, some more useful than others. Despite this, it doesn't often affect how fast the room is cleared, at least at the highest level. This is because the room clear is dependent on pressing a button at the end, and that button is only pressable when Colonel Holland's dialogue ends. So as long as you are near the button and everyone is dead by then, it's always the same speed. There is also a chance that you get an additional enemy spawn in this room, a golden elite by the name of Bob. We've actually had multiple instances up to this point to see him in the game, but the speedrun just so happens to skip all of those instances up until now. The other main enemy of note is the elite general, who has a concussion rifle. We attempt to kill him last with a backsmack so that we don't lose track of his gun during the combat. It also has a chance of falling through the floor. Almost every single concussion rifle has a small chance of falling right to the ground, being lost forever. We no longer need the plasma pistol, so switching it out for the concussion rifle can speed up the movement on the way back to the hangar. When we arrive at the final challenge of the level, this hangar bay is under attack from all sides. And while we're planning on blowing the place to smithereens, we need time to set up the bomb. After killing the enemies in the middle, we trigger the final encounter, and this one is a doozy. There are 6 waves of enemies spread out across 6 different doors. The goal will be to kill each wave before it even gets to leave the door in order to end the sequence as fast as possible. All 6 doors, however, have a random amount of time that passes before they can open up, creating a lot of variability for how this needs to be played. We do have time to run to the Pelican though for better weapons, grabbing a sniper rifle and a rocket. Ideally, we have full grenades by this point as well, as those will help immensely with the clears. First is these 4 jackals who eat a sticky grenade for breakfast. Then just above, 2 skirmishers take a frag grenade, and if they live, we finish them off with the sniper. Just across the hangar, we have 4 grunts and an elite who hold this rocket, and then in the middle, we have a wave of grunts who are handled by a single grenade. Holding the rocket out for the grunts scares them into a startled animation, and this animation makes them stay in place a tad bit longer, which makes the grenade way more consistent. Then to the left, we have 2 more elites who we take out with a rocket, and then the final wave is on the far side of the hangar. But there's no way we have enough time to beat them, so we need to kill them from here. A well-timed volley of rockets could kill all 3 elites, but it's pretty unlikely. Most of the time they need to be cleared up by the sniper. With the final wave cleared, all that's left is for George to set up the bomb. After his dialogue ends, we just need to be near him, and that completes the level. The only new strategy in this level is grabbing the conch from the general and the bridge. Everything else has been optimized to hell and back, and with this level coming in at a close at 10 minutes and 15 seconds, it makes for nearly a fifth of the run's entire runtime. Unfortunately, the bomb timer has been broken in the engagement, meaning the only way to set it off is manually. George elects to take this duty onto himself, thinking that he will save Reach from the coming invasion in doing so, and thus yeets Noble 6 out of the airlock so that he can't be stopped from sacrificing himself. In a moment of selflessness, George sets off the bomb, successfully destroying not only the Covenant cruiser, but also the supercarrier above. Reach is saved, and Noble 6 gets an amazing view of all this while falling back through the atmosphere. Unfortunately, immediately after this, a large fleet of supercarriers arrive, replacing the one that George just sacrificed himself to destroy. Falling back to Reach, Noble lands in a field near the city of New Alexandria, and hoofs his way there. The Covenant's invasion of Reach has stepped up in a massive way, and they've started to attack the human cities. Noble 6 then joins the fight in aiding the civilian evac force. Upon starting the mission, we have a large straightaway of just running. Jumping at the end of a sprint cycle maintains a bit more momentum than just letting it run out. This mission also takes up almost a fifth of the game's runtime, with it being over 9 minutes long on average. And most of the mission is combat, so this pistol is not going to cut it. Passing these first couple of skirmishers, we arrive at the suicide grunts, who are blocking our path. Despite playing on easy, it's still very much possible to die here if you get charged by too many grunts in a row. I pick up a needler, but much prefer to grab a grunt's PP. So I find one on my way and head to the first required combat encounter.
Final protective fire 1. Danger close. My command, over.
Copy, Kilo 40. Firing FPF-1 at your command.
This first courtyard has 3 brutes that are all attacking civilians. Civilians have a special property that makes them completely invincible to the player's attacks, instead reflecting the damage back to the player. That is to say, if a civilian gets caught in the crossfire, you instantly die, and have to reload from a checkpoint. In order to open the door to progress, we need to clear every enemy out of this arena, But much like the start of LNOS, we can kill all of the enemies here before more arrive to skip the next wave. This is called door skip, and we get it by peppering the first 2 brutes with a plasma pistol and then shooting the helmet off and then headshotting the last brute. This whole time we're also searching for plasma grenade drops, as they will help a ton in the next room. Door skip is pretty simple, but this next combat encounter is going to be anything but. The gate to progression is an elevator that is being used for civilian evacuation. While you wait for them to evac, you have to fight 2 waves of enemies. One that is here from the get-go, and one that spawns in from 2 phantoms later. Once the second wave has less than 2 enemies alive, then we can go back to the elevator and continue. Doing this fast though has a few complications. There are a couple of skirmishers and a brute that spawn in right outside the door, but they don't count towards the quota, so we ignore them. The first enemies that do count are these 4 grunts at the very start. We kill the extra brute to see if he'll drop a sticky, and then we jump up and throw a grenade to kill the grunts that are on the top floor. How many grunts this kills tells us how many grunts should be on the bottom floor, and then we clean those guys up and grab the shotgun. While we do so, we chuck nades at the enemies coming down the stairs. We kill both brutes on the left and then strafe back to the right side to get the majority of the leftover enemies. By looking at my motion tracker, I can tell I have 3 enemies left, 2 jackals and a brute. If there are less than 2 enemies alive, then the reinforcement waves will spawn in. There's a balancing act here. If we kill the enemies early, then we'll get the fastest possible reinforcement wave, which does save time in theory. However, the way we plan on killing them requires us to run all the way back to before the door skip to kill both phantom waves at once with the sniper rifle. So if we kill these enemies too fast, then the phantoms might spawn in too early, and it'll be impossible to get the quick kill that we want. But if we kill them too slow, then obviously that loses time and we'll be sitting there waiting for the phantoms to arrive. I press the elevator button to call it back, and then press the second button through the wall to send the elevator back down. This doesn't actually do anything for now, but it preps the elevator to instantly teleport us into it and progress to the next section as soon as the kill quota is hit. This sets up the trick long teleport. On the way to the sniper, we kill the last 2 enemies, spawning in the phantom waves, and now the race is on. These 2 phantom waves drop off 3 brutes each, as well as some skirmishers on the close side, and some grunts on the far side. From this location, you can easily see both phantoms as they come in and even snipe 2 of the brutes out of their far one before they get a chance to move. This is made harder by the fact that whenever you get shot while zoomed in this game, you automatically unscope, so we have to hide from the other phantom's turret. After cleaning up the brutes on the far side, we try to collateral some of the grunts, but after we run out of our 4 sniper shots, we know that's the timing for the enemies dropping off on the phantom close by. We turn and immediately throw a grenade to try to catch all of the skirmishers while they land. The skirmishers love to run away as they're scripted to run towards the entrance of the elevator, and they're really hard to hit, so killing them with the grenades off rip is very important. One more grenade and a few sniper shots later, and we hear the sound cue that tells us that we got the quota. Damn! We only have a short period of time before we're going to get teleported, so we use this to grab the gravity hammer from the brute's dead body and check its swing count. This is gravity hammer ammo, or as it's more affectionately known, Hamo. Hamo is random and can range all the way from the high 80s to the low 40s, with each swing taking about 5 Hamo. The gravity hammer swing pushes the player backwards and can be used to make jumps otherwise not possible, and just speed up movement in general. So the more Hamo, the better. Here we meet up with some ODSTs who are using jetpacks to clear the gap up ahead, and they beckon us to join them. They will soon regret this, as the gate that locks the jetpacks away is scripted to open when the dialogue being spoken to us ends. And it's a different random ODST every run, so we throw a grenade to try to kill them all to skip the dialogue. Once we have the jetpack, we immediately use it to perform a trick called Kami Slide. By using the hammer and jumping while jetpacking, we get a ton of height, and then land with speed into this broken railing. Doing this at the right angle sends us flying. Combine that with a hammer swing and more jetpack, and we are soaring across the gap at insane speeds. We can keep this up by repeatedly swinging the hammer and timing out jetpack thrusts. This often sends you off to the left, so you need to look really far left with your hammer swings in order to course correct and not splatter into a wall. You always end up having to look a little bit further left than you think you're going to need to, hence the name Kami Slide. Thank God this map is not mirrored. This sends us across the map and towards the next evac point. On the way, we kill a brute with a concussion rifle and swap out our empty sniper rifle for it. With these 2 weapons, Noble 6 has become the ultimate lone wolf, able to blitz through the level faster than ever before. It's short-lived though, as we swap out the hammer for a rocket launcher as we have another required fight ahead. Up to the evac we go. This fight is pretty simple. We kill everything outside and inside, and there's a trigger that spawns the Falcons and Pelican to arrive. There's one very notable thing about this arena though, and that is it teaches people a very interesting mechanic that isn't often seen. Brute helmets can actually block fuel rod shots if you shoot them in the head. Normally, brutes die to a body shot from a fuel rod on easy no matter where you shoot them. But if you hit them in the head, a headshot which normally does more damage, they actually survive because the helmet tanks all of the damage. Once all of the enemies are deceased, 2 Falcons arrive in time with a Pelican. The Pelican is there to evac civilians, but our job is not quite done yet. Unfortunately, this autoscroller is not going to be skippable, so we have to ride the Falcon of Shame. We jetpack above the Falcon and shoot it twice with a fuel rod to send it faster towards the ground though, making the wait time slightly less. From here, it's an almost exactly 3-minute long autoscroller. Normally, a player would be inclined to shoot the Falcon turret at enemies along the way, defending ourselves and our allies from any would-be threats. But because this run is done on easy, it's literally impossible to die in this section. So for most, it's a nice small break. Not quite long enough for a bathroom break unless you do hand wash skip, but a nice rest nonetheless, especially because the most important level of the run, New Alexandria, is up next. While we wait, I'd like to just take a second to thank you so very much for watching. It's been a wild ride to make content and speedrun for a living for nearly 5 years now, and I feel like I'm only just getting started. If you don't know, I have 3 YouTube channels, one which posts big video essays and speedrun explained videos. You're watching that one right now. The WaifuRuns TV channel, which posts highlight style content from my live streams, and the WaifuRuns Archives channel, where I post my first playthroughs, full speedruns, and biggest accomplishments, like the world record that this video is based on. On top of that, I also have a Patreon that hosts weekly podcasts and exclusive guides and resources for the many mods I make for the games that I speedrun. If my content has been enjoyable or taught you something about some of your favorite games throughout these years, then maybe consider supporting me financially through Patreon, as it's by far the best way to do so. Regardless if you decide to do so or not, I really appreciate you for watching. Once we land, we're tasked with activating a missile array that will destroy a Covenant carrier that's blocking a civilian evac from escaping. We get to the first one by doing a sick-ass hammer slide and landing in the Warthog, that we then get out of to go hit the first button.
Civilian transport 7 Echo 3 to Fox Actual. My engines are hot. Waiting for your go. Copy that, 7 Echo 3. Working on it. First missile battery, Lieutenant. Get it on. First battery is online. Other one's to your north. Sergeant Major, Covenant are banging on my bay door. I got families and wounded on board. I gotta get airborne. Easy, 7 Echo 3. Spartan's gonna clear the sky. That's it. Battery's primed. Now get over to the east complex and fire those missiles. Sergeant Major, the Cubbies are almost through my...
2 more buttons later, and we push back the Covenant forces enough for the civilians to escape, finishing Exodus in 8 minutes and 47 seconds. After the civilians evacuate, Noble 6 is picked up by Cat and regroups with the rest of Noble Team. With the Covenant invasion ramping up, Noble Team is tasked with taking out 3 radio jammers stationed across New Alexandria that are stopping the evacs from working together. New Alexandria is an immensely complicated level, one with a storied history that relates to this video. While I cover this level's run in this video, I also have already created a video that dives into the level on a much deeper level, into its mechanics as well as its cultural influence on Halo Reach speedrunning as a whole. The entire reason Seclusive's run was so unbeatable was because of this level, and to properly convey to you why, you'll have to watch that video. For the purposes of this video, we can just say that the level has an insane amount of luck on it, and the odds of getting the best possible luck are somewhere in the 0.5% range. As the level starts, we get into a Falcon and look to our first of 3 main objectives. On easy, the first main objective is always the hospital, but on legendary, it's random which objective is first. We throw a grenade under the Falcon as we get in to kill the Marines that are trying to get in as well. Having Marines in the Falcon at the start of the level makes the first trick much harder, so keeping them from the side seat helps a lot. In addition to that, it also gives a slight speed boost to the Falcon as it takes off. Because we know the first objective is always going to be hospital, we can set up for our first trick, Banshee Grab. There are 9 possible Banshee spawns in this level and 2 of them are playable. 2 Banshee spawns always happen, but it's random which location they do. In this example, we get the best possible spawn and we head over to the Banshee while shooting the turret off this roof. This is because when Cat's dialogue ends, you will always get a checkpoint as long as you aren't in combat. This turret sometimes shoots at us, keeping us from getting the checkpoint, so by killing it, we can guarantee one right before we get to the Banshees. Flying towards the Banshee, we can get out of the Falcon and hijack ourselves into the Banshee, kicking its non-existent driver to his would-be death. These Banshee spawns are so good because they are super close to the hospital. We then fly over to the hospital and call for an evac Falcon to pick us up with the down arrow on the keyboard or down on the D-pad. This spawns in a Falcon to replace the one that we dropped into the middle of the city, but it takes some time before it can fly over to the hospital and pick us up. This evac mechanic is the main reason that we play on a down patch version of the game. On current patch, if you press right click at basically any point, it cancels the evac. This is just a bug that's in the current version that isn't in this previous version. This is all happening while we're heading to the hospital to destroy the first of 3 jammers. By Banshee bombing the ground in front of us, we can blow the wings off the Banshee and then it can fit into the hospital doors. We simply get out of the Banshee to trigger the door opening and then quickly get back in and fly it inside and down the stairs. From there, we fly all the way to the jammer, skipping this entire section. After activating the jammer, we grab a shotgun and then get back in the Banshee. The game checks to see where the player's location is after completing the jammer section, and if you're inside a vehicle, it can't find you, so it just kind of moves on. This skips having to backtrack out of the building, as the next trigger you hit is for the first side objective. The structure of this level is that you have to complete 3 main objectives, but between the first and second main objective and the second and third main objective, you have a random side objective. After the hospital section is completed, it starts looking for the first side objective, and if you aren't outside when this happens, the game will teleport you outside automatically. This takes us to the start of the hospital where the Falcon that we called for is just arriving. By shooting the Banshee over and over again while waiting for the teleport, we delay our checkpoint until right as it happens. That way, our checkpoint is after the teleport and right before the objective is rolled. This way, if we get a bad objective, we can simply reload checkpoint and hope to get a better one, re-rolling it over and over again. While waiting to find out which of the 12 side objectives we've gotten, we get in the driver's seat of the Falcon, asking the driver to please step aside. As long as we're in combat, we won't get another checkpoint, potentially locking us into whatever new objective we get. So by constantly shooting the Falcon, we can avoid this and still have that option to re-roll. Not all of the side objectives that you can get here are the same speed. In fact, it's the most important part of the entire level. Of the 12 side objectives, only 4 of them are in a 6% dataset that will give you a sub 7-minute time pretty much no matter what. In order to get a full game world record, even with ass, you need a time under 7 minutes for sure. This run gets Cat Shades, a slower objective not in the 6% dataset, but an okay one nonetheless. Most of the objectives in this level involve killing a set of enemies, saving some Marines, or escorting Buck. Buck is special and gets 3 objectives all to himself, 2 of them being instant resets, and the third one only being playable if you have very specific circumstances. Because we're only going to get 2 of the possible 12 objectives in this run, I'm going to go ahead and show a couple examples of other objectives that we could have gotten, but we didn't. The first objective I'll show is 1 Alpha 3. This objective requires you to defend some Marines from an incoming force. But if all of the Marines die, then the objective finishes and you don't have to wait for them to be evacuated in order to progress. The Marines in these objectives are always invincible until the UI pops up though, so we have to wait for the Phantom to drop off the troops before we can finish the job. With a lot of these objectives, you can spot them early by looking at the scripted Phantom on the way to its objective. This one is actually a part of that 6% dataset I mentioned earlier. The Buck objectives are notorious in NA because 2 of them are instant resets. Here's an example of one of those too. It's an instant reset because you have to escort Buck from one side of the map to the other, and there is no way to speed it up. It essentially is an autoscroller that takes upwards of 2 minutes to complete. One of the best objectives you can get is 018. Once again, tasked to defend some Marines, we can kill all of them and then clean up the snipers to get the second fastest clear in the mission. Finally, we have Jammer, where this Phantom flies up to the top of this roof and drops off a jammer. Not only must we destroy this jammer, but also every enemy that gets dropped off by the Phantom. And this can only be done from the ground, so we have to land to complete the objective. These are just some of the 12 possible side objectives, and you can see how they range vastly in difficulty and completion time. It's no wonder it's only a 6% chance to get a sub 7 on this level. After clearing Cat Shades, the next main objective triggers. It's random which of the 2 remaining it'll be, and we initially gamble towards Virant, but it ends up being Synovia at first. This is actually pretty lucky, and the bad gamble that we took didn't lose any time as we're here before the elevator door opens.
With me, 1-9er. 7 Delta 1-9er. Do you copy? if you can, but get that jammer offline either way. You're close to the jammer. Destroy it. It's a trap. Get the hell out of there. Thermal looks clear for now, Sis. Return to your Falcon and stand by for instructions.
A quick run in to blow up the jammer and ride back down, and we arrive at the second side objective. The second side objective is more complicated than the first because you can't get two of the same objective group in one run. So because we've already gotten cat shades, we can't get jammer or elites and engineers. This leaves all of the possible objectives on the east side of the map. With cat shades in this run, the only way we could possibly get a sub 7 is to get whiskey, the best possible objective. This NA is actually the recording from my world record, so of course this happens. After killing these 3 shade turrets, the objective is complete after only 6 seconds. And then we head towards what we know will be the last main objective, Virant Telecom Tower. Flying towards the building, we take out its anti-aircraft turrets and a few enemies that spawn in the doorway. These enemy kills mostly don't matter, but we just get rid of them to make sure that they don't blow up the Falcon while we're away. This objective is pretty straightforward. We just run to the jammer, press the button, and run back.
This is the last jammer. You're almost there.
Fall back, Fort Delta! Fall back! Defensive position! Go! Hurry! Stay down. You just gotta hold out a little longer.
Jammer offline. Well done, Nova 6. Head back to your Falcon.
Now all that's left is the final objective, which is to help the final Oni Tower evacuate by killing 6 shade turrets surrounding the building. We actually can blow up the phantoms that drop off the shades early, stopping the shades from ever even spawning in if we're fast enough. The 6 shade turrets drop from 3 different phantoms, and we're only fast enough to be able to blow up one of them. This leaves 4 more for us to clean up before the level can end.
Roger that. Nova 6, get over here and cover our evac telecom. I need you overhead now.
Command, this is Whiskey 3-5. I've got my eyes on 6 long-range shade turrets in the vicinity of the Oni Tower. They can light pretty tough on our evac burns.
Copy with P35. Nova 6, take out those heavy shades. Third turret is down. Whiskey 3-5, you're clear to proceed with evac.
Copy, Command. Much obliged.
Nova 6, you've got to neutralize the remaining shades for our evac.
With all 6 shade turrets destroyed, New Alexandria is finally successfully evacuated, and we complete the level in 6 minutes and 55 seconds. From the outside, this may seem like a particularly lucky NA, as it did get a run under 7 minutes. But to put it in context, Seclusive's world record gets a 633 on this level, and the individual level world record by Seclusive is a 607. So despite the sub 7 run, it could have been far luckier. And of course, it could always be played better. With this evac being complete, all that's left is for Noble Team to fall back. But with the Covenant carrier starting to glass the planet, that proves to be harder than anticipated. During the attempt to escape, Cat tragically dies from a single bullet to the back of the head, creating sad memories for some and banger YouTube thumbnails for me. At this point, Reach is completely doomed. An entire Covenant fleet has arrived and started to glass the planet. Noble Team is tasked with one more mission: to go back to Oni Sword Base and rescue Dr. Halsey, the creator of the Spartan program, and prep the place to explode in order to destroy any of her research that was to be left behind. As it turns out, Oni Sword Base is actually secretly storing and researching a Forerunner artifact, The Forerunners are an ancient alien race that have disappeared, but their technology was far more advanced than either the human or Covenant technology of today. The real goal of the Covenant is to collect as many Forerunner artifacts as possible, but because the humans got here first, they have dibs. So in order to get that artifact, they're going to kill every human they can. Dr. Halsey is here studying the Forerunner artifact, of course, but she also uses Reach as a headquarters of sorts. Considering she is the mastermind behind the Spartan program, which abducts kids and trains them to be super soldiers, I think it's safe to say that makes Reach the equivalent of Halsey Island. This makes our goal essentially erasing any evidence that this island ever existed. Makes me wonder if we're really the good guys. Ironically, this level is named The Package. Dropped just out of range, we need to make our way towards the Sword Base, but there are 2 anti-aircraft guns that we need to take out first.
Not a small group infiltration. Eliminate all hostile ground-to-air defenses so the rest of Noble can land at Sword Base for the torch and burn. Keep a low profile.
We run to a Ghost and kill its pilot so that we can use it to drive to a Revenant.
Might be a Scorpion that's still operational, 6. Take a look.
Revenants are faster than Ghosts when boosting, and the cannon can be used to destroy the anti-aircraft guns, so we take it and then force it inside. The shots from a distance are used to break the AA gun's shield, and then when we're there, we do one swift shot to set it to explode.
First target neutralized. Falcon, stand by.
After breaking the second AA gun, we are on a 1-minute timer before the next door can open. In this time, we switch to a Ghost so we can be more nimble. Then we just have to kill these 2 grunts in the turrets and this Revenant driver. With the time left over, we sit and wait while the door opens very, very slowly. What is it with this door in particular and being on a 1-minute timer?
Noble team, Falcon group has landed. Hostiles engaged. Duna's working on getting the gate open. Really missing Canada about now.
Once the door opens, we drive on through and into the base where we have to run up this utility shaft and nade jump to the top floor.
Cubbies all over the base. Just in time, 6. Kill them all, Noble. Tango, coming from the pad. Hand the garage. Double time at 6, come on. Where are we going now, boss?
From here, we just do a bit more running until we arrive at the main courtyard where we jump off the statue to skip right to the next load zone. This is where the rest of Noble team meets up with Dr. Halsey, and she directs them to guard her while she prepares what she believes to be humanity's last hope at surviving this war with the Covenant. This leads us into the most complicated and dynamic combat encounter in the entire game: the package and fight. Loading into the cave, we run immediately to the left to hit a trigger that spawns in the first of 4 waves of phantoms. This first wave is just a scripted wave of 1 phantom, but the earlier it spawns in, the earlier the next ones will as well. While the phantom's on his way to drop off troops, we head to the cargo door that Halsey is hiding behind to grab a Spartan laser, some rockets, and a jetpack. There are 2 flying banshees around the arena, and we want to get their attention by shooting the plasma pistol at the ground, and then by aiming the laser at it. That way it aggroes on us and flies towards us so that we can hijack it with the jetpack. If you have the rockets out though, or fly above the Banshee at any point, it'll run away and not let you hijack it. There's also this thing it can do where it flies straight up, and if the angle is too high, then you can't hijack the Banshee. Once in the Banshee, the real chaos begins, as we are on a tight timer to do a lot of things. The first phantom wave just drops off a few grunts and then flies away, but after it does, the second wave spawns in, and this is where things get crazy. This second wave has 3 phantoms that all drop off their own troops, but the order in which they spawn is random. Not only that, but the distance of time between them is also random. There is a sleep timer, or a timer that tells the phantoms to spawn to stall for a certain amount of time, and each phantom has its own unique and random sleep timer on top of pure spawn order. Because of this, there is an insanely high amount of possible timings for these phantoms to arrive in, and there are only a few which are very good. Before we're able to take aim at the phantoms, we have to activate all 4 of the personnel turrets in the area. Not only do these turrets help clean up enemies that are dropped off, but they also contribute to a timer between each wave. For every 1 turret not online, another 5 seconds is added to the wait time between waves. So we go around activating all 4 turrets before taking the fight to the phantoms. In this run, I get D Phantom first, which is the best possible phantom to get first. Now the goal is to blow it up before it drops off any enemies at all. In order to do this, we need to dump damage and fast. The laser does 25% of the phantom's total health in 1 shot, but that's only if you hit the engine. The engines on phantoms take 2 times damage from all incoming fire, but that means we would have to shoot all 4 of our laser shots just to kill this 1 phantom. We have better methods of preserving our ammo than that. After 2 lasers, we switch to rockets and pre-fire the shot where the phantom will be. Rockets, while not doing as much damage as lasers, do a pretty large amount if you hit the engine, and this is just barely enough to kill. The order begs for killing Sea Phantom next, but we can't afford to use any more resources on this wave, so we use the Banshee for the rest. Thankfully, the Banshee can lock on its Banshee bombs, and this helps us get more direct hits. If you shoot the entire time and hit the Banshee with all 4 Banshee bombs, it'll die with just that. I'm just fast enough and can lead my shots correctly, and I'm able to kill the Phantom early enough that the explosion of it blowing up kills most of the enemies that dropped off. With this spawn order, AB Phantom is dealt with last, and unfortunately, it arrives too quickly for me to be able to kill everything before they get away. The best possible scenario here would be to get sleep timers so perfect that you can blow up the phantoms and have that explosion kill all of the enemies inside before all 3 phantoms are able to drop off any troops. The odds of this happening though are so exponentially low that we don't even know the odds. It just almost never happens. In order to progress from one wave to the next, we need to kill pretty much every single enemy. We are, however, allowed to leave at least 2 alive, so we have a little bit of wiggle room. We clean up a few more enemies and trigger the next wave. While it comes in, we go to this spot where we can see all of the spawns and decide how to approach the next wave. We got good RNG on the first wave, but the second wave we get very bad luck. It's Sea Phantom first, which is already one of the worst possible patterns you can get. In some scenarios, it could be an instant GG, or even a 30-second time loss if played poorly. This happens so frequently though that I decided I'd come up with a strategy to counter it. I found this rocket lineup to kill Sea Phantom before it drops off enemies while staying in the spot near D Phantom's landing zone. This allows for a much faster adaptation and saves this particular RNG very well. Something to note is, the laser, while being a literal laser, does actually have a maximum range, so it's important that I jetpack into the air for these first shots, as if I don't, it's possible that the laser simply doesn't reach the Phantom and completely misses. Despite my adaptation, D Phantom is really fast and I can't kill it before it drops off the troops. Fortunately, some of them try to hijack the Banshee, and I can do a barrel roll to splatter them, cleaning them up. Something to note about resource management in this section is that when trying to kill the Phantoms, they regenerate their HP to the nearest 25% HP range every 5 seconds so that they haven't taken damage. So doing something like shooting rockets at a Phantom as it flies past you, but then not immediately going to kill that Phantom right away, basically does no damage at all, as that Phantom will regain its HP before you're able to come back to it. The AB Phantom in this scenario actually landed rather late, making it easy for me to clean up its dropped off enemies. You could tell when the next phase has started because Halsey will start talking again, and this one we do a little bit differently. This final wave does have 3 more Phantoms, but I only have to kill this specific one, and it's not random where they spawn or when. Tracking it down, I kill it before it drops off anything, and then we wait for Halsey to open the door, completing the package in 7 minutes flat. While the notoriously luck-based level in this game is New Alexandria, package is a slept-on number 2. Many runs get past NA with good luck, just for package to say no and slap your wrist, only moments from the finish line. Fortunately, unlike NA though, the more time you spend on this level, the better you can get at it. Despite there being a lot of luck involved, the better you are at the combat, the better you can adapt, and the more you can minimize the time loss. Just about every single pattern you get can give you a time under 7:30, but the better you play it, the better time you get. This makes the package one of the sleeper hardest levels in the game, especially in a full game setting. While you've already gotten past most of the major barriers in the run, you still have this huge adaptation section right near the end. But then even when that's over, it's still not over, as we have one more level left, Pillar of Autumn. Finally arriving at Halsey, Noble Team is informed of what her actual mission was. To Halsey, this data is the only hope for humanity at this point, and the person in charge of that data analysis is Cortana, an advanced AI with Halsey's own personality injected into it. Cortana and the data are stored in a container and set to be transferred to the Pillar of Autumn, the last ship stored on Reach. Cortana picks Noble 6 as her choice of Noble member to escort her to that ship. Halsey is then escorted by June off-planet via a Pelican, while Emil, Carter, and Noble 6 head towards the shipyard that the Pillar of Autumn is docked at. The area is completely swarmed by Covenant, and it's basically a suicide mission to even attempt to get Cortana to the Pillar of Autumn, but as Carter says,
Wouldn't be a noble mission if it were easy.
Taking a lot of fire on the way in, Carter orders both Noble 6 and Emil to jump from the Pelican to make the rest of the trek on foot. His job will be to draw interference and try to take as much attention away from them as possible. As the mission starts proper, we nearly instantly do a nade jump to land on the top side of the mountain. There are invisible walls all around, but this one section is just low enough to let us through. From here, we can see a giant cliff that we immediately jump off of. By landing on this small slope at the bottom and timing a jump, we can get a massive slide that sends us almost all the way to this building. Inside is a rocket launcher, and we grab it before mounting the mongoose and heading off into the sunset. There's been something I've wanted to talk about for most of the run, but I've never gotten a chance to, and that is the in-game scoring system and in-game timer. Because this next few minutes is mostly driving, I can't think of a better time than now. For every other level in this video, I was not able to show the scoring system and timer that's featured in the bottom right of the screen. This is because every segment that I've been using for the video is actual individual level run that I accomplished during my grind for World Record. And the recording for those runs have all had my face cam, chat, and voiceover on top. Thankfully, Halo Reach has a gameplay watchback feature called Theater Mode. This allows me to watch back the runs and record them separately. However, this is lacking the feature of the in-game timer and scoring system. The reason this last level has it showing is because I recorded this one separately for this video, and therefore could show off the run as it is seen in actual runs. The in-game timer is the timing method used for both individual levels and full game runs. It rounds down always to the nearest second, meaning at the end of the level, if you're at 6 minutes and 59.99999 seconds, it'll round down to 6 minutes and 59 seconds. But if it's 7 minutes and 0.00000 seconds, it'll round down to 7 minutes. In addition to this, the timer doesn't run when the game is paused, when cutscenes are playing, or in between missions. When we turn the timer on, we also turn on competitive scoring. This is because it has a ton of other advantages as well. When you kill enemies, your score goes up, and multiple kills can trigger medals that indicate kill streaks. This is often used to count the amount of kills and help to adapt when things go wrong. This will be a huge factor for the trick at the very end of this level, and I'll point it out again when we get there. Arriving at this cutscene, we see that the path forward is blocked by a scarab. Carter, already injured, decides that it's his time to check out and sacrifices himself to clear the path ahead, leaving Emil and Noble 6 as the only remaining Noble Team members. From here, it's just some running in sprint cycles until we can reach the Boneyard proper. And this is where the game likes to bone us. Earlier on Long Night of Solace, we talked about Bob and how he has random placements throughout the game. Well, it's extremely important that we get Bob's concussion rifle on this level, and on easy, he was the only enemy that spawns with one. Unfortunately, on this level, he can spawn in one of two possible locations. Of these two spawning locations, one of them is not only way faster, but also way easier than the other. Because it's random and it's at the very end of the run, we need to be able to play for both. This is actually a new strategy though, as in previous iterations of full game runs, if you got the bad Bob spawn, then people just wouldn't go for the faster strategy that requires the concussion rifle, opting to do a much slower and much more luck-based strategy at the end of the level. Grabbing a Spartan laser, we check for his location. If he's visible on the right here, then we know we got the bad luck. When Bob spawns on this side, as soon as you see him, even through walls, a 20-second timer starts. And when that 20-second timer is over, he actually just despawns, taking the concussion rifle with him. It's not really possible to make it all the way over to him in just 20 seconds, so that means we have to kill him from far away. What we do then is charge the Spartan laser while not looking at him, otherwise he'll dodge, and then flick it over to him right as it fires. If we hit him dead on with the laser, it'll leave him at basically 1 HP with no shields. And then we could drop down here to get the DMR, swapping out our laser, then one-tapping him to finish the kill. This can be exceedingly difficult though, as the dude loves to run and hide. If he sees you charging the laser at all, he's immediately going to jump behind a wall, and then it's basically GG. Not only that, but the bloom on the DMR's shots makes it really hard to hit a shot from this distance. I somehow haven't talked about it up to this point, but bloom is a mechanic in this game that is very infamous. Basically, whenever you're shooting a single shot weapon like a DMR, sniper rifle, or magnum, every single time you shoot, the next shot becomes more inaccurate unless you wait a long period of time between shots. This is reflected visually by your reticle expanding, or blooming. The bigger distance between shots, the less this has a factor, but the more bloom you have, the more luck-based it is whether you hit your shot or not. After Bob is put down for good, we grab his concussion rifle and start our search for sticky grenades. We need at least one sticky for the end of the level, and it's a completely random drop. Driving a ghost is a lot faster than walking, so we rocket this one to blow off its wings and kill the driver. Once behind the wheel, we could drive it through the shipyard, squeezing between the doorways. This is only possible because we blew off the wings with the rocket. Alright, now let's rewind. What happens if we get the good Bob spawn? Instead of using the laser, we just proceed straight through using a grenade to kill as many jackals as we can, in hopes of getting one of those sticky grenades.
Proceed to dry dock, platform D. I'll be on it myself to receive the package.
We shortly arrive at another ghost and do the same thing as the other area to get it to explode and blow off its wings. The Bob this time is a little bit further back in a hangar bay right by the door that we need to go through. So we splatter him with the ghost, or at least try to, and then grab his concussion rifle and get back in. This is where the routes combine as we drive through the shipyard and out of this window. This window jump is super important because the giant tank right outside of it actually doesn't support ghost driving on top of it. So if you land on it or in the railing at the edge of it, the ghost will get stuck and you'll just have to leave it behind. From here we drive past some hunters and jump through a window, making sure to double back to hit a required trigger. The concussion rifle starts to show its value here as we use it to skip the stairwell and increase our overall speed. We have to make sure that we preserve the ammo though, as we need quite a lot at the end of the mission. There are plenty of enemies here to farm stickies from, so if we haven't gotten one, this is where we really need to farm. We're coming up on the last room in the game, and the ending strat is not an easy one. This is that strategy we talked about earlier that needs the concussion rifle. There's a reason this one isn't done in full game runs very often, but it's the standard now. We need to clear this area of all the enemies so that Captain Keyes can fly the Pelican in and pick up the package. When we cross a certain trigger, then all of the enemies will start spawning in, and that's when the craziness begins. By waiting to run until a very specific timing, we make it so that the fade out of the UI ends right as we land, allowing us to actually see where our rocket's going to hit. We shoot a rocket and then run right towards this railing. The rocket needs to kill at least 5 enemies for the strategy to work, but the more the merrier, as it makes the next part a little bit more lenient. We can see how many kills we got based on the medals on the left. We then use the concussion rifle to jump onto this pipe where we can then rocket towards anything that may have survived the first one. One more conch jump and we're up by the mat cannon that Emil is stationed at. From here we can throw a sticky grenade across the map on a precise timing so it explodes right when the brutes land off the phantom drop. If we kill enough enemies with the first rocket and this grenade combined, then this triggers the next wave of the fight to start. The advantage to doing this from up here is that we can actually get inside the mat cannon before Emil does, and use it to instantly kill the phantoms coming in. This kills all of the enemies inside and instantly hits the kill quota for the next wave. Unfortunately, you can't do this with every single phantom, so this one that is out of range of the mat cannon, we have to kill the enemies by hand. One well-placed grenade and a few rockets later, and the second to last wave spawns in. We can kill both of these phantoms with the mat cannon, and if everything goes well, the last wave will be skipped entirely and Captain Keyes will start arriving towards the landing pad to receive Cortana instantly. There is about a 30-second wait for him to arrive, so we head over towards the remnants of the Brute Chieftains and grab the gravity hammer. This will come in handy for speeding up movement towards the final objective. This entire fight, Emil is supposedly using the Mat Cannon to defend this area and the Pillar of Autumn, but we all know that's not true. Man, he is really bad at his job, because if you don't do this, he definitely won't blow up those phantoms for you. Not only that, but as you give Cortana to Captain Keyes, Emil is overran by elites and is killed. This leaves no one to defend the Pillar of Autumn as it tries to leave orbit, and thus leaves Noble 6 with one last task. Regaining control for one final time in the speedrun, we use Sprint and the hammer to head back towards the railing. This time, we use the gravity hammer to make the final jump. Heading down the stairs hits the final trigger and causes the incoming Covenant carrier to teleport ahead. From here, there is a 1 minute and 15-second wait until the carrier becomes vulnerable to the Mat Cannon, and shooting it triggers the end of the game. I would like to take these last few moments to shout out Seclusive for having the most absolutely insane speedrun I have ever seen, and pushing myself and the community at large by doing so. Let it be said that no run will ever be world record forever, but that by no means is an indication that the work, sweat, and tears that were put into those runs prior means nothing. In fact, I believe that it would simply be impossible to achieve a run of this quality if Seclusive had never done what he had done. Speedrunning is about self-improvement and community. In order to be able to push yourself to the next level, you need rivals to be able to push against. Thus is the spirit of competition. So again, thanks to the Halo Runs community, and especially to Seclusive. A10. A10, okay, A10. With one more Mat Cannon shot, we take out the Covenant supercarrier, allowing the Pillar of Autumn to successfully escape with the package. That package, of course, being the data Dr. Halsey compiled along with the final piece of Cortana. This data is then used to direct the Pillar of Autumn, telling it where it should go when it's fleeing from the Covenant fleet. It jumps into slip space, and on the other side, it emerges just outside the first Halo ring. As for Noble 6, with the Covenant glassing of Reach coming to a peak, he does what Noble Team does best. Fights to the bitter end. No matter how hard you fight though, eventually every accomplishment will see its final day. Thanks so much for watching, and stay stylish.